The alarms hadn't stopped screaming for 20 minutes. Station Commander Vexus stood in the security hub, his four eyes fixed on the monitor displaying chaos in Sector 7. 3 Kragoth cubs, apex predators from the death world of Kraga Prime, had escaped their containment during a diplomatic visit. Their species was legendary, 8 feet of scaled muscle even as juveniles, claws that could shred durasteel, and a bite force that could crush bone like dry twigs. Deploy the stun nets again. Vexus barked into his comm. On screen, 6 security officers in full combat gear advanced on the cubs with electrified nets and neural disruptors. The lead cub, Rakkar, bared rows of serrated teeth and released a guttural roar that rattled the camera feeds. His 2 packmates flanked him, their crimson eyes blazing with feral defiance. The nets flew. Rakkar moved like liquid lightning, twisting beneath the mesh and slashing it apart with one swipe of his claws. His companions did the same, and within seconds all 6 officers were retreating, one nursing a gashed arm despite his armor. Unacceptable, Vexus hissed. The Kragoth delegation would be furious if their cubs were harmed, but if the situation wasn't contained soon, someone would die. These weren't domesticated pets. These were predators who had killed their first prey at 6 months old. Commander. A calm voice spoke from behind him. Vexus turned to see Cadet Mira Solon standing at ease, her hands clasped behind her back. The human was fresh out of basic training, barely 20 standard years old, with dark hair pulled into a regulation bun and eyes the color of Terra's oceans. She wore the simple gray jumpsuit of a junior cadet, unarmed and unarmored. Cadet Solon. This is a restricted area during— Let me try, Mira interrupted. Her voice steady. Vexus's mandibles clicked in irritation. Absolutely not. You're untrained for xenofauna containment. Those cubs have rejected every protocol. They've injured 3 officers and destroyed 500,000 credits worth of equipment. Exactly, Mira said, stepping closer to the monitors. You've been treating them like criminals. They're children. They're predators. They're scared children in a strange place surrounded by armed adults pointing weapons at them. Mira's gaze didn't waver. Commander, humans raised wolves. We understand pack dynamics and body language in ways your scanners can't measure. Give me 5 minutes, Vexus wanted to refuse. Every instinct in his prey species biology screamed that sending an unarmed cadet toward apex predators was insanity. But 30 minutes of proper protocol had failed spectacularly, and the Kragoth ambassador was demanding results. 5 minutes, he growled. But if they charge, my team will fire. Mira nodded and headed for the door. Sector 7 was a mess. Overturned cargo crates littered the floor. Scorch marks from neural disruptors scarred the walls. And in the center of the chaos, 3 Kragoth cubs huddled together, their scales bristling, their growls a constant warning. Rakkar saw her first. His head snapped toward the opening door, eyes locking onto the small, soft creature that entered alone. No armor, no weapons, no pack, just fragile pink skin and that strange mane of dark fur on her head. He snarled, lowering into a hunting crouch. His packmates followed his lead, but the human didn't run, didn't shout, didn't raise any strange devices. She stopped about 15 feet away, then did something that made Rakkar's predator instincts flicker with confusion. She sat down. Right there on the cold floor, cross-legged, making herself smaller, vulnerable. She looked at him, not with the hard, direct stare of a challenge, but with soft eyes and a relaxed posture. And then, impossibly, the corners of her mouth curved upward. She smiled. Rakkar had seen many expressions in his short life. Aggression, fear, pain. But this was something else. There was no threat in that expression. No dominance display, just warmth. An openness that made something deep in his chest unclench. Hey there, big guy, Mira said softly, her voice carrying none of the sharp tones the armored ones had used. Rough day, huh? Rakkar's growl faded to a confused rumble. His packmates looked to him for guidance. Mira didn't move closer. She just sat there, radiating calm. I know this place is scary. Lots of noise, lots of strangers. You're probably hungry and tired, and you just want your family. She reached slowly into her pocket. Rakkar tensed, ready to spring, but she only pulled out a small wrapped item. Food. The scent hit his nostrils. Rich, fatty, protein. His stomach clenched with hunger. Mira unwrapped the ration bar and broke it into 3 pieces. She tossed one gently toward Rakkar, not at him but near him, non-threatening, an offering. Rakkar sniffed it cautiously, then devoured it in one bite. It was delicious. His packmates whined, and Mira tossed pieces to them too. "Good boys," she murmured, and that strange warmth in her voice made Rakkar's tail twitch. "You're just scared, I get it. Sometimes I'm scared too." She stayed there, talking softly, her body language completely open. No sudden movements. No demands, just presence, patience. Slowly, Rakkar's muscles began to relax. He took a tentative step toward her, then another. His packmates followed, emboldened by his courage. When he was within arm's reach, Mira extended her hand slowly, palm up, submissive, trusting. Rakkar sniffed her fingers. She smelled of salt and warmth and something indescribably safe. Before he knew what he was doing, he pressed his massive head against her hand. Mira's smile widened, and she scratched gently behind his ear ridge, a spot that made his eyes half close in unexpected pleasure. "There we go," she whispered. "You're not so scary. You're just a big baby, aren't you?" Within minutes, all three cubs were clustered around her, leaning against her small frame, their aggressive displays completely forgotten. Rakkar actually purred, a sound he'd never made for anyone but his mother. In the security hub, Vexus stared at the monitors in stunned silence. The human cadet sat surrounded by three apex predators, scratching their scales and murmuring to them like they were harmless pets. The cubs, who had terrorized armed security forces, were practically melting into puddles of contentment. "How?" one officer breathed. Mira tapped her comm. "Commander, they're ready to go back to their quarters now. Could you have someone bring their handler? They'll follow me, but they should see a familiar face." 15 minutes later, the Kragoth cubs were safely returned, fed, and sleeping peacefully. The ambassador personally thanked Mira, while Rakkar, before being led away, turned back to stare at the human who had shown him kindness when everyone else had shown him fear. Commander Vexus approached Mira in the corridor afterward. "That was inadvisable, reckless, completely against protocol." "Yes, sir," Mira said simply. "It was also the most effective xenofauna handling I've ever witnessed." His mandibles clicked in what might have been a smile. "How did you know it would work?" Mira shrugged. "Humans have a saying, Commander. You catch more flies with honey than vinegar. Sometimes the best weapon isn't a weapon at all. Sometimes it's just understanding that everyone, even predators, just wants to feel safe." As she walked away, Vexus watched her go and thought that perhaps humanity's greatest strength wasn't their adaptability or their stubbornness or their technological prowess. Perhaps it was simply their ability to see the frightened child hiding inside the monster and to smile anyway.